Welcome. Today, Lauren and Christine and I are going to be talking about sun transits 8 and 20. So we're in the conversation, we're going to explore around and see what arises and what we can learn and what we can play with over the next two periods of 5.5 days. Maybe we could start just by talking a little bit about what's happening at the end of this particular transit, all the complications of the shadow and whatnot.
Christina, I want to go back to you because I think you had shared last time that during this period, this is a heart to throat connection, or can you
Identity
remind
to
me?
no, I'm sorry. It's a 23. It's ajna to throat, right? So it's mind to throat.
Mind to throat. So people speaking their
Mm-hmm.
mind. So
Mm-hmm.
I just want to share. I've had a few experience of that.
Yeah.
Some unexpected. And I also felt quite activated myself and the need to say things like in a very emphatic way, like you need to hear me say this like this. Wondering
Mm.
if either of you have had that experience.
I think I've had more into people needing to say things
Mm.
coming, yeah, not so much about me or anything like that, but the opinions were coming very strongly over this past few.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that makes perfect sense. The ajna is like it's opinions, right? It's this certainty. It's believing you're certain or trying to be certain, right? And an opinion is nothing other than a piece of certainty, right? Because it isn't truth. I mean,
Yeah.
even our own opinions shift, right?
Yeah. And when I think back, it was really the first day of that gate that I had an encounter with someone that blasted their opinion in a very shocking and aggressive way to me. Um, and then, when you think, well, I would never behave that way, suddenly it's surprising that you find that maybe later on in that gate period, you are also behaving that way, but you're justified in sharing your opinion. I have to say, I'm really glad we made it through this transit, and I could feel my nervous system like downshifting just as we're coming to the end of it today.
Hmm, interesting. Yeah, I hope so, knowing what your week was like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a real individual energy too, right? So again,
Mhm.
this is one of those places where everybody on the planet shared that same individual activation, right? So everybody around us, which we just talked about, was in this space of feeling the need to voice thoughts, ideas, and opinions, right? Which we don't always have. And so, um, and today or tomorrow, I guess, we'll shift into gate 8, which is also a strong individual energy. And it's also in our throat, right? So it's just on the other side of our throat, center essentially. But it's connected to our higher knowing, right? And so this channel and this energy is much more, I think, aligned with this soulful knowing, right? It could also be very vulnerable, but it is more not so much head energy, right? Like I think what we experienced last week was all of this head energy, and we know what mental energy is like. It can be mucky and it's not clear and it's not truthful and it's outside of our body and our embodied wisdom. And so hopefully this week we'll be back closer, even though we're still in this manifestation energy, more aligned to this artful self, this whole knowing, whole embodied knowing. And also gate 8 is the gate of contribution, is the name in human design, right? Like there really is this energy to contribute to the the totality, right? In some way from your own personal individual gifts and talents. And in the I Ching, at least the version of I Ching that is most closely aligned to human design, it's holding together. And I haven't had a chance to look at Hillary's language, which is sometimes different. But there is also that energy too, right? Like the last individual energy was almost more of a tearing apart, a splitting off energy, and this is more of a like, all right, let's come back together now. So,
Wow. Just as you're talking about that, Christine, I mean, I had some very personal experiences that felt like this things coming apart and very explosive. And today has been the most peaceful joining together. And so in Hillary Barrett's version of the Hexagram 8, she calls it seeking union. I love that. Same thing, holding together, coming together. And her question was, where do you belong? And are you going to choose to join? And is this a good fit for you? And you're mentioning that this comes from higher self. This to me speaks of a period of 5.5 days where we're doing a lot of inner work and reconnecting. Like maybe that's a little bit where we reconnect with our human design authority. Like,
yeah,
how is this feeling for me?
yeah.
But there's so much thinking, and we're so enculturated to think a certain way, that it's hard for people to be that authentic self and know that where do I fit.
Mhm.
It's just like there's a lot more of I'm fitting in. And in the Gene Keys, he talks about that fear of being different.
Mhm.
Um, and so, like, I know, like, for all three of us, we've taken paths in life that are different from average.
Yeah.
And, but it's taken courage and it's taken us sticking with it, and not fearing being different. And
Mhm.
that's not an easy thing in our world.
No. Well, and it also speaks directly, Lois, to this, like that every gate in the system has a what they call a keynote sentence. And the keynote sentence for gate 8 is the basic worth realized in contributing individual efforts to group goals,
Mhm.
right? So this is a really beautiful energy of like learning to discern, you know, what are you, what are your gifts? What are you here to do as an individual? But how does that then impact the collective? How does it improve the collective? How does it share? How do you share those gifts with the collective, right? So it is, this really nice but tricky space, right? Of like, who am I? What am I in an authentic way, right? And how, when I can allow that to be expressed, what does that do beyond myself and my own energy? And so, which is not the energy we were in last week. That was very much like, who am I? And I'm going to tell you who I am. I don't care who you are, and I don't care how it fits in.
Yeah. And I think the word authenticity really speaks to me here, Christine, because I don't think last week was about authenticity. It was when we're talking from what we think. So let me tell you what I think. And this is not let me tell you. This is I need to understand how I feel. I need and so it is this really tapping into our source rather than this resource, but our real source. Um, Two things that in Hillary's Barrett's translation that stood out for me is self-examination is key during this lesson, as is decisiveness. Because if we aren't decisive, we can't be of service. And Lois, you mentioned, we've each chosen less than traditional paths here, but we had to be decisive about it, or we wouldn't have made it on that path. And it just brings up for me, if I was not feeling courageous enough or unsure or vulnerable, this might be a really good period to tap into that energy to make that step forward that I've been hoping to do.
There's sort of connected to what both of you have been saying, but particularly like Christine, you said there's like this, there's the I, and then there's the communal aspect of things, and there's a bit of a tension in there. And when I was thinking about this gate, it was thinking about the word should and how strong it is, and like I should do this, you should do that, somebody should do something, and using that to help look at ourselves when we think I should do something is to just to take a little deeper look at what's that about. I mean, because the thing might be a totally valid thing to do, but why are you doing it?
Mm.
Is that, am I just doing it because I'm supposed to, or am I doing it? It's actually in alignment with my values, and I believe that this is something to happen, and that moving us closer to that authenticity.
Yeah. Well, I think from a human design perspective, we'd say anytime we hear ourselves or anybody else say the word should, we can almost be guaranteed we're out of alignment, right? Because anything that we're truly aligned for would not feel like a should, right? Any way we're using our energy that's aligned for us does not feel that way, right? It doesn't even come up to us. Oh, I should go do that thing, right? Because you're like, I can't wait to go do that thing, right? You know? So the word, and again, lots of modalities know this about this word, right? Should. It's all obligation. And again, it takes us out of our authenticity, right? But this is the world we live in. We don't live in a world where we're conditioned to be authentic first, right? That's the opposite of how our world works. And I was noticing in the gene keys the dilemma of the gene key of this particular gene key is imitation, right? And so there's nothing more directly opposing authenticity other than imitation. And
Yes.
so yeah. Yeah.
It's an interesting thing to watch in our society because, say you take teenagers who are busy rebelling against authority and against older people, and then they all wear the same whatever, right? It's almost like their uniform,
Yeah.
and so like, are they really rebelling,
Right.
or are they just sort of conforming to a different norm?
We always call that alienated together.
Well, listening to both of you and this idea again of authenticity, it feels like a time period where we not only are we saying who am I and where do I belong, but how can I be of service with others too? There's this part about seeking union, and the Gemmo extract that I thought of that I think would be very useful at this time for several reasons, and we're talking about a microdose for the nervous system, is mistletoe. So mistletoe is a really interesting plant. We often think of it in a negative way, that it joins with another plant and takes from it. But the truth is, once mistletoe has connected and establishes itself, it actually forms a symbiotic relationship with that plant. It is not taking away, it's giving and taking. And so, I think of the bird that carries the mistletoe seed out, and the seed going, do I belong here? And what can I join with? And those same questions that Hillary Barrett asks, I think we can think of that with the mistletoe seed. The other thing that's particularly interesting about mistletoe, it's the one Gemma we know for sure that works with the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve controls our breathing and our digestion and our ability to regulate ourselves even when we're mobile and in action. And I think that would play a very important part as we decide, do I belong here? And can I make that step to be of service and join with others to make something happen? I think mistletoe would really serve many people in these next 5.5 days.
I love that. Yeah, I think that it's interesting because this gate 8 in the body graph, the connecting gate is gate 1, which is the creative. It's the most creative energy in the body graph. And so together, this gate 8 and gate 1 become the channel of inspiration. right? And which is not dissimilar to this channel that we, or the gate that we were in previously in 23. That is also known as a as an inspirational gate. But again, it's a mind energy inspiration, right? And this is a soul energy inspiration, right? And a soul energy creativity piece, right? And yeah, so I agree. Like this time, the story that's often told around the gate of, I mean, the channel of inspiration is this idea of the artist and the art promoter, right? Like the artist is the creative, the gate one, and the gate eight is this art promoter. And just like mistletoe, it becomes a very synergistic relationship, right? Like the artist often doesn't do a good job of promoting their own work. They often need somebody out there doing that for them. The promoter doesn't create artwork themselves, right? And so this thing about this synergistic and mutualism type of relationship is probably it makes a lot of sense to me. And I think that energy is here for us all, actually. This might be a great time to start collaborations, right? Look at, working with people in a different way these next few days.
And out of that comes appreciating uniqueness
Yeah.
in ourselves and in others,
Mhm. Mhm.
because it's just the special gifts that we all bring.
Yeah. And contribution, that's what it's talking about, right? Like I think about, we have this culture that, looks at so many people as less than for whatever reason, right? Those people are takers, or those people aren't, capable, or those like there's so much of that in our society. And yet this contribution is saying very clearly, everybody contributes. It may not be clear to you what that contribution is, but do not forget that there is a contribution from everyone, and it's a necessary piece of the puzzle.
Well said, Christine. I'm thinking too. One of you brought it up, and I think in these last few minutes about um, it's not waiting for others to do this. So this probably was in the conversation about the should and should I do it, or should do it. And I remember about this period astrologically having a conversation with the astrologer Jyoti Wynn, who has since passed. And Jyoti was saying in that conversation that this is the time not to say they should be doing it. It's what can I be doing, and how can I join arms with others to make it happen? And what a beautiful picture, thinking of people just linking arms during this 5.5 days to move something forward, to be of service.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Well, and also this, astrologically, this is one of those cusp gates, right? We're at the very tail end of Taurus, and the
Yeah.
last few days of this gate will be starting into the season of Gemini, right? And so even in this gate, there's this dual energy, right? This grounded, earthy energy, and then this very much more airy, make things happen, Gemini thing, right?
Yeah.
Within this energy. So,
Lots of things all at
yeah.
once.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, tell us about gate 20 then, Christine.
Yeah, so gate 20 puts us back in another, I think it's probably the last one of the year, but this is another gate in the body graph that it's our Earth position is the completing channel energy, right? So as gate 20 is if the sun is in gate 20, our Earth everybody on the planet has their Earth in gate 34. And so that makes this 3420 channel, which is it's called the channel of charisma. It is the busiest channel in the body graph. It's direct sacral life force energy connection to the throat, right? So the tagline for this energy is the energy for when thoughts must become deeds, right? So I would expect that, and there's also other astrology going on at the end of May that is also quite large. So in general, I would just say buckle up, pay attention, right? It's going to be a busy time. You yourself may feel this push to move, to do, um, without much thought, because gate 20 is literally called the now. This is the most present energy in the body graph. What's going on right now? not 20 seconds ago, not 20 seconds from now, right now. And I have to do it right now, right? And so people that have this energy defined in them, you may see over time, you may notice it. Like they are those people that are doing it in the moment all the time. They're busy, busy, busy. Um, and it's also in the I Ching called contemplation. So, do with that what you will.
Yeah. Well, I would love to dance with that for a little bit
Yeah.
because it reminds me of what astrologically for this period is in conflict a little bit with this urge to do is we're actually meant to pause and think and feel and contemplate. And so with gate 20 and the hexagram 20, Hilary Barrett refers to it as seeing. And the questions she asks pertain to, what are you actually seeing? Not what are you looking at,
Right.
but what do you see? And today I just had a lovely morning with a group of homeschoolers, and we did the exercise of a sit spot where they chose a place and they were sitting on the land and looked at what they were really seeing, right? And allowing everything come in, not judgment, just what it is. And of course, children can do that. They aren't saying, well, I see ants building a house, right? No, they say, oh, well, I see these ants moving right and left and didn't attach stories to it, which makes me think that during this period of this gate that we have to be careful of not attaching stories, and that need to contemplate and slow down and not act on all the busyness that's coming up may be quite important.
There's that getting caught in our minds.
Yes.
And sort of when we're in our minds, we're very, very rarely now. We're usually in the past or somewhere off into the future. And so it's like you said about like this sitting practicing with children. And I was just thinking about the somatic nature of that, because it's that more grounded and into all of the senses rather than just what am I doing? What am I supposed to be doing here? Am I supposed to be learning something? It's just I'm just taking it all in. And which is it's interesting because it connects with the presence of gate 8 in that way. It's like this is almost like, so how do we ground this one? And really in that ability to be present and be in the now it's so intertwined.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel when I think about gate 20, my lived experience of it is impatience, right? Super impatience. And I see it with people that have this channel all the time. They're in constant distraction. They're constantly busy and they are so impatient of both themselves and definitely of others, right? They're always fast movers and they cannot slow down, right? So again, this is how we show up, right? The gate is the now, being present, contemplation, and yet how we show up is in the shadow, which is none of those things, right? And so I would definitely feel that impatience piece will probably show up for us, in part because again, it's showing up for everybody on the planet. We're all going to have it at the same time. So just being really aware of your own impatience with the world, with others, with yourself, and trying as much as you can to really embody this contemplative now. What is it right now? Am I safe right now? Am I resourced right now? Right? Like, and just giving ourselves and others a lot of grace through this period because it's a really activating energy, I think.
Well, because when we see, we want to take action. And I think what this time is asking us is see more, see wider, see as a witness, not as a, oh my gosh, that's broken. I have to go fix it. Or that person's doing that terrible thing. I need to go correct it. But instead, taking that step back. And when I was reflecting this morning, I really felt like this gate is the path of coherence. That is the line we're going to be challenged and invited to walk. Doesn't mean we're going to feel it or feel particularly coherent, but I think that's what it's inviting us to do. Make sense of all we're witnessing without reacting, instead responding.
Yeah.
I was thinking related to this gate with like practices is there's so many times that we brought up pausing or noticing the breath, which seemed very appropriate in this, but then connecting it to that idea of that somatic connection with what's going on. I was thinking that um, using the breath in a different way could be really interesting here. Is like, so this is sort of like a need to get away from the mind controlling everything. And so how can we bring it down into the body? And so like just breathing normally, like you would, and noticing some thoughts. But after a little while is to drop your attention down to your heart space and imagine that you're breathing through your heart space and just see what changes when you're in your heart space. And then after a little while, you can drop down to your belly and imagine that you're breathing through your belly and just see what changes then about how am I experiencing now.
Yeah,
And
I love that. And I think it would be an excellent practice for people to come back to this recording in that energy and just try that little visualization and that exercise, because again, for many people on the planet, they do not have a defined sacral, right? They don't have consistent yes, no response wisdom, inner wisdom, embodied wisdom. But they will for those 5.5 days. I mean, it won't be their authority, but it will be an energy turned on in them that they can maybe experiment with. And then having a practice like that to experiment with, like try it now, see what it feels like, try it for the next couple of days, and then try it again a couple times during that transit to see if you notice the difference in your own energetic ability to feel the yes or the no of it. Could be really powerful.
There must be a general that would support all of this.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I'm really excited about this. So as you're listening to this, you can tell that you could be experiencing this if you can get yourself to that contemplative state and regulate your nervous system. It could be an incredible opportunity to get this bird's eye view of what's really happening. But not all of us can stay there. So I've got a Gemmo for whichever state you're going to be in. So the state that Christine described of all these things coming through and wanting to do everything and trying to chant it all through, if that's what you're feeling, then turn to Olive. Olive is exactly about making room for all you're trying to do. And when I say making room, that doesn't mean adding more days to your work. It means creating spaciousness, and it allows you to go, I don't need to do those 2 things. I thought I did, but I'm going to take them off my list. So Olive helps you get permission. So if that's where you are and you find yourself a little frenetic and distracted, turn to Olive. However, if you have some moments where you're like, oh, I'm really in my groove on this, I'm like the heron over the lake and I can see everything and I want to even have more of that, I suggest Ginkgo. And Ginkgo is a really interesting extract. In our trials on the nervous system years ago, people, the response they gave is they noticed things they had never noticed before. They got really clear on details, and there was this sharpness, like what am I thinking? Things coming into focus. The other thing is ginkgo as on a physical plane is really wonderful for the eyes and helps us see better and strengthens the eyes. So I would not recommend that if you're feeling dysregulated. That would not be a good answer because it's a bit of a tonic. But if you are like I'm going with this flow. This is a wind over earth hexagram. So I'm the wind and I'm flowing, then go for the ginkgo. If you keep bumping your nose into the earth and you feel it again and again, I would try the olive.
I love that. Love that. This is also, I didn't mention, this is another individual energy, right? So we're still in this very deeply individual time where we are looking at our own process, we are wanting to do our own thing. Again, everybody else on the planet is also, lit up that way. But the other thing I just came across, it just reminded me, like in our individual energies, they are associated with melancholies in our energy. And so there's each energy, each individual gate has a particular melancholy. And the one that shows up for gate 20 is discomfort with the world as it is now. Right? And so I just put that out there because that seems like it's probably going to be a theme in this gate 20 that, would be worth recognizing that if you're feeling that way, it may not be your own thing. It may just be amplified by what's going on in this transit, and just being aware of that.
Yeah. Christine, that's such a great reminder for us. And I think we have to come back to this every few recordings is that we're not the only ones feeling this. Everyone around you is feeling it. And depending on where their nervous system is, they're going to respond differently. For instance, some people in those last 5.5 days may have been able to refrain from yelling at people, but others weren't. So just being aware of that, I think helps so much, and it helps us understand our partners and the people we live with, and what's going on in the collective.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and just in general, I think the more all of these kinds of modalities bring to us this ability to not take things so personally,
Yeah.
right? And this is really what's really helpful to me about human design. It's like, oh, this is just an energy. It's just mechanical. It's really not about me. I'm just in this weather or I'm just in this energy for a little bit. Okay, cool. Right? And it frees up that space, that energetic and mental space to put it where I can actually, it is actually mine to deal with and mine to work through and mine to do, right? So it's been really like some things I don't take it personally, but I do see that I have things that can be, useful for me to put my energy into, and that's, gives me the space to do that.
I had one thing I was curious I wanted to ask you about, Christine, is like we've moved out of a strong yang energy period into a yin period. And I'm wondering, like, just as we've been talking about all this, how we're seeing this shift from the more masculine to more feminine, um, and how like it seems like we're almost transitional in that. Am I
Yeah. Have
accurate?
you have you noticed it? I'm curious.
Well, that's I guess that was why I was asking, because it feels like there's a transitional piece happening. It's like, well, we didn't just move smoothly into yin. It's like there's a dragging a foot in the yang somehow.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I mean, that makes sense, right? Transitions are hard, right? Mostly we don't like transitions.
Yep.
And this definitely is, these few gates are definitely transitional gates, right? We just had a whole half a year of yang energy. And now we've got to, like I said, I think we talked about it at one point. We've got to really understand, like, what does receptivity mean, right? Does it mean I'm taking in all the crap, or does it mean I'm open for amazing things, right? Like those are slightly different.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah. It requires all of the awareness that we're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you. And thank you for being here with us. And we hope we see you next time.
Thanks.